So what do we mean exactly by this word resilience? Well, in the physical realm, resilience is a property of objects or substances that makes them flexible. This is actually a pretty useful but not perfect metaphor for human resilience and psychological resilience. It's this quality that enables people to successfully navigate the hard stuff, the difficulties that come with life. It's not imperviousness to difficulty. It's not a magical force field. Difficulty happens to everyone who is human in some way or another. But it is the capacity to flexibly interact with that difficulty, to recover more quickly, to adapt and change where needed in the face of stress or difficulty, trauma, adversity. It is this overall skill of just being able to handle and respond and adapt to those things with a little more of our psychological well-being intact. Now I'd like to cover a couple things I work with a lot as a clinician. These are things that are more internal challenges. They come with the way we are wired as human beings, and they frequently just complicate things for us when we're trying to deal with distress. And those are, first, our brains have a feature that can actually make us more distressed than we need to be. And second, we frequently make internal distress and painful stuff worse by how we react to it. So let's talk about that first obstacle, features in our brains that actually end up backfiring and causing us more distress than we need. Our brains do this cool thing where they're capable of not just devoting energy to whatever is present or immediate or right in front of us, but they can also project into the future, and they can review the past, and they can make us feel things related to different experiences that we long since stopped having or may never even have in the future. And they certainly make us feel things that aren't going to be helpful at times for what we're actually facing in the present. So it's a feature of our brains in that it can help us see things coming in the future or review things that we've done in the past to kind of help us adjust or shape our behaviors. But it becomes an obstacle when it sort of takes over and causes too many feelings related to things we're not even currently experiencing. And those feelings of distress just add up to get in our way or really weigh us down. And it's funny to think of our brains trying to be helpful, ending up being quite unhelpful. I'm not suggesting that your brain is out to get you or wants to hurt you. I'm just saying the ways that it automatically works sometimes cause way more distress. Another kind of fun way people have talked about this tricky feature of our brains is to compare humans and zebras. So consider that you're a zebra, you're just chilling at the local watering hole in the savannah, doing your thing. Along come a group of lions. Oh no, run away. So the usual thing happens, right? We know how nature works. The lions chase the zebras, usually the slowest or oldest one or youngest one, I don't know, gets caught and eaten. Here's what doesn't happen next with zebras that does happen with humans. Zebras don't go, oh my gosh, Carl, did you see that? That was so scary. Are there more lions out there? Should we be like scoping out where the local lion hangouts are? What if I'm not fast enough? I got to do some cardio, get in shape. What does this all mean? Why are there lions in life? How do I interpret this? How do I make sense out of this? Oh no! What zebras do instead is as soon as their brain doesn't need to protect them from a threat that is present and current, their activation systems come right back down and they go back to the watering hole and they're like, cool, let's drink some more water. Human brains don't do this. Our threat systems can stay on and get stuck on for long periods of time, or they can get triggered by thinking about something we're not even living, something in the future, something in the past. We have a highly sensitive and highly developed threat protection system, so highly developed that it actually turns on way too much, way more than is functionally useful for us. So what can we do about this one? Well, first of all, even just understanding that that's how our brains are going to automatically work is key. Understanding that some of the information our brain generates from us, reviewing the past, looking into the future, anticipating threats, stressors, worries, things to be afraid of, that is the way our brain is wired to work, and it's going to do that whether or not we want it to. We don't have a volume knob for our brains. I wish we did. It would make stress management and resilience more effective. But we can't just turn that off. What we can do is be aware of it and see that it's happening. And that gives us the flexibility to decide how much of that we need in a given moment, how much we need to listen to, versus how much we can just let that be a thing our brains are doing in the background. It might be noisy, but we don't have to listen to all of it. We don't have to respond to all of it right then. That kind of flexible interaction with some of the automatic functions of our brain is called psychological flexibility, and it's a really important skill that I think is definitely related to resilience. So consider directing your attention and focus more to what's immediate and present for you, and try to bracket out the things that you have no control over right then, things you can't do anything about right then. Let them be there in the background, but direct more of your energy to what you do have some control over and what is right in front of you. It's easy to get caught in endless rumination about worries and things we can't do a thing about. On to obstacle number 2, and this one is common for most every human being. And that is, we are just not very good at dealing with discomfort or pain or internal distress or suffering or negative emotions. We don't like it, and so we end up responding to it in ways that end up paradoxically causing more of the thing we didn't like in the first place. One way this happens is that we spend a lot of our time and effort trying to cut down the spectrum of human emotion, but just that negative side, the side that has all the feelings we don't like and that are painful. We try to get rid of all those, but what we don't realize is that you can't just cut one side of the emotional spectrum down. Inevitably, when you do that, you're also cutting down your ability to experience pleasure and positive emotion. And if you've ever been in that miserably middle numb place, you know how awful that can be. Or we just try to flat out avoid or ignore or quickly escape any uncomfortable feeling, which feels like it works for a second, but in the long term really breaks down and can't be sustained. Sometimes how we react internally to the painful or negative things we feel actually make them worse. We know from research that chimpanzees can feel sad, but only humans can feel sad about feeling sad, or angry about feeling anger. Sometimes we get caught harshly judging the feelings we have and the thoughts that we don't like, and we judge ourselves for even having them in the first place. That all just compounds and makes us feel worse. Illustrating this concretely, one study found that participants who endorsed items like, "If I don't feel happy, maybe there's something wrong with me," or "To have a meaningful life, I need to feel happy most of the time," those participants ended up feeling more depressed in comparison. Suggesting again this complicated interaction between not just the painful feelings and negative stuff we'll have to deal with in our lives, but also how we respond to that and how we judge it, and whether or not we can make room for it. Which leads us to talking more about what we can do about this obstacle. You don't have to pretend to love the difficult things you're going to feel in your life, the painful feelings and negative thoughts you're going to have, but you do have to maybe increase your acceptance of them and your willingness to have those be a part of your experience. It helps to learn to accept these without judgment and to catch and notice when you are judging yourself harshly for experiencing things that any human being is also going to experience. I hope that talking about those two obstacles is helpful to you. These are things that I find are just pretty universally human and kind of tricky for all of us. Putting work into either or both of these will definitely up your resilience.